Hello, my name is Magdalena Nowak, and this is a presentation of ENCO Group about healthy nutrition of the project Growing Skills on Farms for Budding Learners with Disabilities. What is healthy nutrition? Healthy eating means eating a variety of food that give you the nutrients you need to maintain your health, feel good, and have energy. These nutrients include protein, carbohydrates, fat, water, vitamins, and minerals. Nutrition is important for everyone. What makes a healthy diet can actually be really straightforward. The key is getting the balance right, which means eating a wide variety of food in the right proportions and consuming the right amount of food and drink to achieve and maintain a healthy diet. What makes a healthy diet? When considering a healthy balanced diet to support your training goals, it's important to balance the amount of different food groups on your plate. Your protein foods like fish, chicken, pulses, or non-meat proteins like tofu should cover about a quarter of your plate or roughly palm-sized portion. Split complex carbohydrates like basmati rice, wholemeal pasta, sweet potato, and vegetables equally to cover the rest of your plate. The portion of complex carbohydrates and vegetables should both be about a fist size. Food diary. Keeping a food diary is a great and popular way of keeping track of how much you have consumed throughout the day. People are often recommended to keep a food diary by a doctor or a dietitian to monitor their eating habits. We often ask our study volunteers to keep a track of what they eat and drink. You might be surprised by what it can reveal regarding your eating habits. Instructions on how to keep a food diary. There are two main ways you can go about keeping a food diary. The traditional way, by using a pen and paper, or by using an app on your mobile device. Traditional method, pen and paper. Write down the date, week, and time of the day, for instance, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Write down the type and amount of food, drink you consume. For example, week 1, breakfast, croissant and cappuccino, toast and orange juice. Then portion, then day, month, year. Digital method. You can choose one of the free apps and start recording what are you eating and drinking during the day. Some of these apps allow you to scan the barcode on the product you have just consumed and save it automatically. Energy to live. Our body uses energy for all of its functions. Even when we are asleep, we expend a considerable amount of energy, like our heart is still beating to support circulation, our lungs are still breathing, our kidneys are still working to produce urine. Our other organs are still in activity, like the brain. The surplus of energy that goes not get metabolized is stored, mainly in adipocytes or fat stores, to be used later on when there is an energy debt. Have you ever thought, where does all that energy come from? The answer is food. We eat food in order to survive and carry out our everyday functions. Food contains nutrients that, when broken down in the gastrointestinal tract, release energy that can be used by the body's cells, tissues, and organs for normal function, growth, and repair. Macronutrients and micronutrients. The nutrients that can provide the body with energy are protein, fat, alcohol, and carbohydrates, known as macronutrients. Foods that are rich in protein includes things like eggs, meat, fish, chicken, beans, and pulses. Food that are rich in fat include fats and oils, food and dairy, and the number of processed food that use fat in the cooking preparation stages, like confectionery. Carbohydrate-rich foods are bread, cereal, pasta, rice, potatoes, and some fruit and vegetables. Food also contains very important micronutrients, also known as vitamins, minerals, and trace elements. How much energy do we need daily? One size does not fit all. Energy requirements do vary from person to person and will depend on age, gender, body size and composition, physical activity levels. The gold rule for adult persons who do not need to lose weight and want to maintain their current body mass is to maintain the balance between energy intake, like how much we eat, with energy expenditure, like how much energy we use up doing activities. In order to calculate our personal energy requirements, we can calculate our BMR, basal metabolic rate, and also estimate your current physical activity levels. Remember, however, that this is just an approximation. Energy balance. Your weight depends on the balance between how much energy you consume from food and drinks and the total amount of energy that is used by your body. When you eat or drink more energy than you use, you put on weight. If you consume less energy from your diet than you use, you lose weight. But if you eat and drink the same amount of energy as you use up, you are in energy balance and your weight remains the same. We can calculate our BMI, body mass index, and then to compare it to well-established population standards. Calculating your own BMI is quite a simple task. How to calculate your own BMI? Things you will need. You will need to know your own weight in kilograms. You should preferably do this first thing in the morning, and height in meters to use the calculator. In order to manually calculate your BMI, you can use the following equations. Weight in kilograms by height in meters. The height value should be in meters, not in centimeters. Then compare the value with the World Health Organization classification. It reveals if your BMI is within the healthy weight category. You can also calculate automatically your body mass index by clicking link below in the slide. This slide contains also the table with the body mass index and weight status. For underweight people, the body mass index is below 18.5. For normal range weight status, the body mass index is from 18.5 till 24.9. For overweight persons, the body mass index is between 25 to 29.9, and for obese persons above 30. There are also three classes of obese people. Class first from 30 to 34.9, obese class 2 from 35 to 39.9, and obese class 3 above 40. And what is your score? Measure your own waist circumference. The measurement of waist circumference is used to assess central fat distribution, and it is a good indicator of abdominal or visceral adiposity. This is the fat that is around the organs and can be a risk factor for disease. Subcutaneous fat is the type that you can pinch and inch just under the skin. You can easily measure your own waist circumference. All you need is to measure a measuring tape. For reduced disease risk, the number should be below 94 centimeters for men and 80 centimeters for women. Are you an apple or a pear? Your body shape will determine health risk, with a pear shape fat stored on the hips thought to be protective for health, whereas an apple shape with fat stored around the stomach is a health risk. In the table on the slide, you can find waist circumference cut-off values to determine those at risk according to BMI. As you can see, very obese people are at very high risk of diseases. Body mass index, BMI, and waist circumference. What do the numbers tell you? The combination of a high waist circumference and a high BMI, as calculated in the previous activity, are strongly associated with an increased level of obesity, increased adiposity, and risk for developing type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular diseases. Risks of eating not balanced diet. When we eat too much food high in fat, salt, and sugar, and lack of adequate physical activity, we risk becoming obese. There is strong, well-established scientific evidence that links overweight and obesity levels to a range of diseases that are prominent in the Western world, in which obesity levels have exponentially increased over the past 20 to 30 years. Main diseases that may appear due to obesity are high blood pressure, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, some cancers, joint problems, depression, overall mortality rates. Remember that being underweight also carries health risks. Eat Well Plate and Eat Well Guide. The Eat Well Plate is a pictorial summary of the main food groups and their recommended proportions for a healthy diet. It is the method for illustrating dietary advice by the Department of Health, issued officially by the Government of the United Kingdom. The Eat Well Plate was previously known as the Balance of Good Health. The Eat Well Plate was superseded by the Eat Well Guide, published in March 2016. The Eat Well Guide is a policy tool used to define government recommendations on eating healthily and achieving a balanced diet. A healthy diet combines all of the food groups in various proportions. The Eat Well Guide is an updated version of the Eat Well Plate. It aims to make it easier for you to identify foods you should try to eat more of, foods you should aim to eat less of, and how much of what you eat overall should come from which food group. The main food groups are fruits and vegetables, potatoes, bread, rice, pasta, other stretchy carbs, dairy and alternatives, beans, pulses, fish, eggs, meat, and other proteins. As you may notice, there are also some foods and drinks that do not fall into these groups. Food high in fat, salt and sugar, such as cakes, chocolates, crisp and fizzy drinks, have been placed outside of the main image. Main macronutrients, proteins. Proteins are organic compounds that contain the key element of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. They are one of the building blocks of body tissue and can also serve as a fuel source. Dietary proteins are first broken down to individual amino acids by various enzymes and hydrochloric acid present in the gastrointestinal tract. These amino acids can then be deaminated and converted to glucose in the liver to provide energy in the body. Proteins make roughly 16% of our total body weight, and the majority are in the form of muscle protein. Many of our hormones and enzymes are proteins too. When dietary proteins such as meat or dairy are consumed, they promote a higher satiety effect than the rest of the other macronutrients. In other words, they will make you feel fuller. Your dietary protein requirements will depend on age and physical activity level. In the UK, it is recommended that adults consume 0.75 grams of protein per kilogram body weight per day, with an upper limit of 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram body weight per day. The main source of proteins are fish, seafood, skinless white meat, lean beef, skim or low-fat milk, skim or low-fat yogurt, fat-free or low-fat cheese, eggs and beans. Carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are also organic compounds that contain the key elements of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The main function of carbohydrate in the body is to provide energy so that every single cell in your body can function. The digestion and absorption of carbohydrates is a complex process in the human body. In the UK, the recommended intake of complex carbohydrates is 50% of your total energy intake. These complex carbohydrates are the cheapest form of dietary energy in the world and should form the basis of most people's meals. Foods like legumes, like peas and beans, oats, some fruits, plum and berries, certain vegetables, broccoli and carrots, and onions would be good example of dietary fiber. But most of all bread, pasta, or potatoes. Glycemic index. The glycemic index is a value assigned to food based on how slowly or how quickly those food cause increases in body glucose levels. Food low on the glycemic index scale tend to release glucose slowly and steadily. Food high on the glycemic index release glucose rapidly. Low GI include most vegetables, most sweet fruits, like peaches, strawberries, mangoes, beans, like chickpea, lentils, kidney beans, and most grains like wheat, oat, and rye. Medium GI foods include bananas, basmati rice, potatoes, prunes, and raisins. High GI foods include white bread, white rice, cornflakes, sweet and white potatoes. Fat. Fat occurs in three main forms in the human body, mainly as triglyceride, but also as phospholipids, the type of fat found on every cell membrane, and sterols. For example, the type of fat associated with your steroid hormones like estrogen. Triglycerides account for most of the fat stored in the body. They are stored in adipose tissue and are used to provide energy to the working muscles of your body. They consist of saturated and unsaturated fatty acids. High levels of low-density lipoprotein, also known as the body cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, in your blood increases your risk of developing heart disease and stroke, and thus foods like these should be limited. In the UK, it is recommended that no more than 11% of your total calorie intake should come from saturated fatty acids. All types of fat are high in energy. A gram of fat, whether it's saturated or unsaturated, provides 9 kilocalories of energy compared to 4 kilocalories from protein or carbohydrate. As part of a healthy balanced diet, we should try and cut down on the total amount of saturated fat and replace it with some unsaturated fat. Micronutrients. Micronutrients are one of the major groups of nutrients your body needs. They include vitamins and minerals. Vitamins are necessary for energy production, immune function, blood clotting, and other functions. Meanwhile, minerals play an important role in growth, bone health, fluid balance, and several other processes. 4 of these elements that are particularly important are iron, copper, zinc, and iodine. Others like selenium, cobalt, manganese play also a critical role. Thank you very much for listening of this presentation. In case of your questions, you can contact us on our email address, through our website. You can find us also on Facebook, on Instagram, and you can visit our ENSO Academy webpage. Thank you.